Today on the Chat and Chew Show.
And so I had to do that, but I'm learning too, even, you know, for anyone who has gone through like an unhealthy relationship, there's things that come up that you have to face as you're walking this thing out with somebody who is healthy. And so there's been times where I'm like, oh, is it okay if I like text you multiple times a day? Because like in my last situation, you couldn't do that. So there was things that I didn't even know were issues, even though I prepared and I studied. So it took the grace of God.
This week on the Chat and Chew Show, we kick off a special love series where we chat with couples about their relationships. We ask questions like, how did they find each other? How did they know that person was the one? And how do they keep the love flowing? In this episode, we're joined by Betty's husband, Pastor Elwood Jones, as well as their son, Kalin, and his girlfriend, Shanell. We get to hear two love stories from two different generations, including a clear definition of what it means to slide in the DMs. We'll also get an understanding of how the demonstration of healthy love can create a beautiful legacy. Chat Tribe, you're in for a treat as we discuss how to find and keep true love. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chat and Chew Show. I'm Roxanne.
And I'm Betty.
Yes. So I'm introducing stuff. So I'm going to see if I do this right. So we are a show dedicated to empowering you to make your relationships better. Right? Right, Betty?
That's it. Wait a minute. Roxanne, you've only been doing this for a year. You've only been doing this for a year and a half. You know, empowering you.
So, but we're actually so glad that you could join us today. We have some super special guests. One of them was really hard to book. Betty, it was hard to get in touch with her. It was so hard, but we're so glad that she could join us. And she with us is her husband, Elwood, who you guys have probably seen before. And then we have some extra super special guests that you haven't seen before. And I'm just going to wait until we get back for you to find out who that is. So stay tuned, okay? All right, so welcome back. As I mentioned to you, we have a great show today. We have joining us Betty and Elwood. Hi, guys. And then some super special guests. We have Kalin and Shanell joining us as well. Hey. And for those who don't know, Kalin is actually the son of Betty and Elwood. So we are going to see if how they hooked up, these two couples, if it matches up. Did he follow dad's plans? Like, did he have the swag that dad had? How did that all work out? You know, and we're actually going to see how these two relationships developed and see if they have some advice for us. So what I'd like to start with is, what is your relationship status? We'll start with Betty and Elwood. Where do you
Well, we'll see after this episode. We'll see what it's going to be like.
I know. You know, it's funny, when we first started doing the Chat and Chew Show, I used to say I've been married for 30 years. And now I'm saying we've been married for 32 years.
And we've known each other come February 14th.
That's right.
For 33 years.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Wait, hold on. You guys met on Valentine's Day?
We did.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. It was meant to be, huh?
It was meant to be. This is funny. Do you want to hear the whole story now?
Some of the story?
Yeah, let's go into it, because that Valentine's Day thing I have to hear. Yeah.
So we were at church and he came up to me like trying to pimp up to me. I don't know if y'all know the word pimp. I was like, "What's up, girl? I like the way you lead worship." I was like, "What kind of?"
I don't have no lines, so I figured I just throw something out.
And I don't know. Did I just give you my number, or did I ask for your number?
Yeah, you couldn't wait to give me your number.
Well,
She was like, she was doing all nervous. Hold on. Oh, I got a 5. Okay, that's a 5, not a 6. No, let me just say this. When I walked into her church, she was leading worship, And I'll never forget when I saw her on stage, I was like, I'm going to marry her. Like, it was really kind of, and my cousin was standing right next to me. I was looking and I was like, I'm going to marry her. Something just caught me. Her beauty, the anointing that was on her to lead worship.
And my blonde hair. I had yellow hair back then.
Yeah, everything. But it wasn't until 2 weeks later, it was on Valentine's Day. It just so happened to be Valentine's Day. I was actually going to talk to someone else, another girl up at her church. Right? But I was doing a music production thing, and she was a keyboard player there, and I wanted to talk to her. And Betty just happened to be walking in front of me, and she kept, and I heard her say this. She said, "Nobody got me anything for Valentine's Day." She actually said those words, and I'm like, I get you something for Valentine's Day. I was like, it was all, I was like, the player was starting to come out of me. But anyway, I said, I love the way you do worship. It's really great what you do. And I said, I was with a group called Living Sound, Terry Law Ministry. She said, Terry Law Ministry? I just read the book. So she just so happened to read the book of the founder of the group that I was had traveled with. She said, call me at the church, because I work at the church. Yeah, I worked at the church. And then I called her, and then we met on that weekend.
We had a date on, but look at this.
It wasn't even a real date. It was just
went to like a worship conference on a Friday.
Right.
The next week. Went to the mall on Saturday. But you guys.
And went to my grandma's house.
He took me to his grandmother's house on Sunday. Now, this was really quick because I didn't know you before anything, but here we go, 32 years later.
Yeah, we were just friends. I mean, in the beginning,
Well,
right?
Yeah, we were friends.
Yeah, just friends. I mean, I wasn't trying to book her or nothing like that.
Yes, you were. So
I really wasn't trying to book.
we were met in February, engaged by April, married December. Ooh. I don't recommend that, especially if you don't know them, but it seemed to work out for us.
Yeah. But I just want to say this, honey. For me, I just enjoyed being with you. It was just it was just so much fun being with you. So we were together every day.
Pretty much
every day
after we first met. Yeah.
And it sounds like when God is involved, you can date on a budget and everything. What it sounds like.
No budget.
It's taking
peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Long walks in the park.
Yes. We going to church today, all right? Yes. I love it. I love that story, and like the Valentine's Day thing and everything is like an added, like beautiful part. So I want to get to Kalin and Shanell down there. So how are you guys doing today?
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm loving the love.
Right.
It's early in Minnesota.
Oh,
but it's okay. It's okay.
So we getting there. We getting there.
I need that coffee.
Yeah, that's right.
So tell me, what is your relationship status?
We're single, but we're friends with benefits.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Okay, on the show.
I'm gonna head out.
Chanel's my girlfriend.
Aww. Girlfriend.
Yeah, I'm her boyfriend.
So give us your how did you meet story. We want to hear if you had as much game as your dad going on here.
Okay, so can I start? Mm-hmm. So this is like the millennial version.
The 2020.
The 2020 millennial version.
Yeah.
So my cousin reposted a video of hers on Instagram. And I was looking at her like, yo, you sound like cute or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so I followed her on Instagram. I went through her page, and she had this really funny video, and it made me gut bust laughing, and I reposted it. She followed me back. I slid in the DMs, and she was like, I was like, yo, girl, like, I'm about to move to Minnesota. Like, is there any churches out there you try and go with me with? I ain't gonna go with me with, but I was like, is there any churches out there?
I was like, okay, no. Bye. Long.
Not for real. It was like, she was like, no, I don't. Okay, bye. But she followed me back, so I was like, all right, I secured the bag partially, you know? Oh my God. And so this is 3 weeks before I moved to Minnesota. And so when I moved to Minnesota 3 weeks after that short conversation, we ran into each other after a church service randomly.
What?
And she looked at me, and my cousin, the same person who reposted the video, introduced me to her and her friend. And she said, wait a minute.
Okay, so then we were at a restaurant, and we were standing in line to order. So then he comes up with your cousin, and then he was like, "Oh, this is my friend. He just moved into town." And I was like, "Wait, are you from DC?" And he was like, "Who are you?" And we had our masks on. So I was like, "Take your mask off." And then he took his mask off. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's you." He was like, "Take your mask off." And then I took my mask off, and then it was like, oh, we know each other. And then that was it.
So 2020.
Yeah.
Wow. So wait, so when he slid in the DMs though, what did you think about him when he first slid in the DMs? Because you ended up following him, but what was your first impression?
I was just like, who is this guy trying to use church to get my DM? Like, I didn't know anything about him. He's like, yeah, I'm moving here. But I mean, his page looked nice, so I follow back.
This is so millennial 2020. Like, his page look nice. I'm gonna follow him back. Right.
I love it. But who knew you guys would run into each other as soon as you got up there?
God.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I heard. Okay.
I
almost didn't go. I was about to leave, and then my friend showed up and was like, "Can you stand in line with me?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll stand in line with you."
And I almost didn't go either because my parents said, "You're doing too much. You need to stay home." And I was like, okay, but I went out anyway. My disobedience cost me. I have a girlfriend.
That's not the message. That's not the message.
How disobedience works out for you.
Well, wait, you guys. I just want to say for the record. So when Shanell said, "Who uses church to try to pick somebody up?" and Elwood said, "Well, like father, like son." I don't know if so we did pass down some game in the family.
Some.
It changed
in the DNA, I guess.
So the line changed from, "Hey girl, I like your worship," into, "Hey, you know some churches I could go to?"
Want to worship with me, girl?
Hey, can you explain getting in them DMs just so for us old people who may not understand getting in them DMs? You are moving to sliding in them DMs? Is that what you're
sliding in the DMs?
Okay, go ahead and explain.
You direct message the person on the social media channel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a direct message. But when you're sliding in somebody, so it's sliding in somebody's DMs is different from just hitting their DM. Like if I'm hitting their DM, it's like, I'm just talking. If I'm sliding, I'm sliding in the DMs, it's like I'm trying to run some game on you, So it's a different thing. I'm sliding.
I did not know the difference.
It's a slippery slope.
A slippery slope for different folks. You know what I'm saying? You got the game, but you don't.
So what have we learned so far?
That there's a different way that you can meet people now because we're in a new generation.
I would say if God don't do it, it won't get done.
That's a fact. That's so true.
That's really real. Because we both had like this God in if I can say God instinct, that was the person. And even and it's not like you had control over the circumstances.
No, can I? So no, because like this, we fully feel like this was God ordained. It's so funny. I went on a date before I met Shanell, and it was like the worst date of my life. It was scary. Like I had to tell that story for another time, but it was a scary situation. Yeah, and so we met the day after that, literally the day after that, and yeah. Anyway, so
but I also think though it's I think the difference between all four of us is what we were looking for. I think. Well, I know I could speak for us. What we were looking for was someone who was a Christ follower first. That's what and so I think what happened was God just merged what was already in our hearts together somehow, right? But I also believe we still have to make the decision too, right?
Yeah. That's how we felt anyway. We felt like, you can make a decision. Now, I personally don't believe there's one soulmate for everybody. I think that there are personalities that you mesh with, but there are some non-negotiables. And for us, got to be a Christ follower.
Yeah.
Right?
And I feel like there's only one for me because nobody else would put up with me other than her. So she's the only one for me.
Oh.
But can I say something though? So you guys' relationship, like I feel like there's so me and Shanell were talking about this. Like I feel like some relationships, like some people were just born to be, these two were born to be with this person, and I feel like other people is like, God is just, it's like, yeah, like you said, it's different personalities. I think it's different for different people, and so like, I mean, for you guys, there's so many weird things. It's just like, this is so obviously God. Like, my dad's birthday is 1/11/61. My mom is 2/22/62. So it's like I don't see. As a millennial, I would have been like, oh my God, that's my wife. I know y'all got married really fast, but I would have said that even faster. But like,
there are those little hints that you're like, wait, like God orchestrated this. Like this is too close. Because even when we first started talking, I had a list of like my perfect guy, and the last thing on my list was like he's gonna be from the East Coast. And I read it, and I was like, whoa. And then it was in like multiple lists, or even we had the conversation of like, how many kids do you want to have? And I was like, well, I always wanted 5. And he's like, well, we'll see. But he was like, that's the number I always say. Like, it was like little things that was like, wait a minute, like this is too perfect.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the list a little bit, because I know a lot of times when people, we're in February, the month of love, and, people start thinking about that. And one thing that oftentimes ladies do a lot, and that is to create a list of some of the things that they want. And I think that's both good and bad, because sometimes when you are, well, not sometimes, all the time, when you're 20, you don't know what you want or need when you're 30. And after living through this, you don't know what you need when you're 40 and then 50. You don't know what you need. And so I think taking a list, and I say create a list so you can have some standards at least, take your list and allow God to help shape that list. You know what I mean? Too, because he can see like the entire thing. We can only see right now, how I'm feeling. But so Shanell, why did you create a list? I'm sorry, Roxy. Why did you create?
I think I was in a place in my singleness, and none of my lists were recent. But I just remember there were so many people who were like, make a list and pray for your husband. And I remember somebody said she has a picture frame that's empty, and she's like, every night I'll pray to the picture frame. And I'm like, girl. So like, I think it's something to do in your singleness where you're like, let me envision who my husband is. And it's kind of like we turned it into an obsession to be like, I'm not going to be comfortable in my singleness, but I'm going to try to visualize this person. And even when I think about meeting Kalin wasn't the person I visualized in my head. I had a husband in my head. And so when I saw him, I was like, oh, nah, like.
The Chat and Chew Show will be back in a moment. But coming up, Kalin and Shanell discusses the list.
So my list went from like 25 things to 5. And like, yeah, it was just, 5 important things to me.
But now let's hear from our resident Ask the Coach with an important dating question.
Hi friends, it's me, Coach Donecia, and I'm here with another segment of Ask the Coach. I was recently submitted a question on behalf of Chat and Chew to answer, and the question was,
how soon into a relationship when it's comfortable for the guy to fart in front of her?
when is it okay to fart in front of your girlfriend? I mean, when? What do you guys think? I would say if the relationship is one where you have been in each other's space and swap stories and you're close enough and comfortable enough to talk about various issues, maybe it's okay. But farts stink. And so why would you want to fart in front of your girlfriend or significant other for that matter? But I'm guessing around 6 months to a year if you're in shared space, sharing stories, sharing just the environment in itself where you're comfortable enough to be free in that manner, then I would say, sure, go ahead, do it. But ultimately, get yourself to the bathroom. You'll be happier because you don't want to have an accident while you're trying to be free.
And, at the time that I did meet him. So.
And like, I had a list, and before I moved, like, God was speaking to me a whole bunch about like just relationships in general. But I really felt like God told me that I need to minimize my list and trust him. Like, even if it's not what I wanted, like, or what I thought I wanted, like, just shorten the list and trust me. And so my list went from like 25 things to 5. And like, yeah, it was just, 5 important things to me. God had to be first, a heart to do ministry, someone who knows how to have fun, Proverbs 31 woman, and then I forgot the other one, but there was another one as well. But and Shanell carried all of them, and I was like, we was together, and I was gonna slide in the DMs again, like.
It's funny because I feel like you got a couple of things combined in that Proverbs 31 woman. It's like you shrunk that thing and was like, here you go.
Right.
You compacted the list. I see what you did.
Right.
What I love that I hear from all of you all is that all 4 of you had your own individual relationship with God. And that's what informed how your relationship would go with each other, which I think is amazing. And I want to ask a question about being ready for a relationship, because sometimes people go, well, you're not in a relationship because you're not ready, or if they get yourself ready to be in a relationship. Are you ready to be a wife? Did you feel ready? And this is for all of you. Did you feel ready when you met your person?
Well, yeah, I did. I felt ready in the sense that I wasn't looking any further. Like that's one part of readiness. But also readiness for me is preparation. So one of the things that I did for a year and a half before I met Betty, probably a good 2 years, was I studied about marriage. What would constitute a great marriage? And so, I spent time reading. One of the things I did, I asked every married couple that I could find 2 things. Number one, what's the success of your relationship? That's the number one thing. And then number 2, what could happen in your relationship that would be a deal breaker? And that was so huge for me. And so in that regard, I was prepared somewhat. When I say prepared, like,
nothing prepares you.
You don't know until you go into it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think for me, because I was like 27 And then the ladies that I hung around, everybody was like anxious to get married and to have somebody. And it's like you couldn't be alone. You had to have somebody, right? And so it was always talk about it. And I was chasing this guy who I was just so in love with him, and he's stringing me along. And I forgot now what happened, because we talking like 30 some years ago.
I came in.
That's okay. before you
got in them DMs.
Slid in the DMs.
Slid in the DMs. I'm sorry.
But I was like, you know, I'm like done. I'm just tired. I'm done. And literally, I said that like on a weekend. I'm done. I'm tired. And literally the next weekend I met Elwood. And when I met Elwood, it was so funny, and we joke about this now, is that I'm like, I'm done with guys. I'm like, serious. He's a nice guy. He could be my friend. So I actually called my friend and said, hey, I met this guy. I think he'll be great for you.
She did. She tried to push me off on somebody.
And I called her back a few days later and said, never mind, I'm keeping this one.
Thank God for that.
But I think what I'm saying is that for as far as me being ready, because I had to let go of this desperate, gotta have somebody, you know what I mean? Which clouds your thinking. If you're like, you know, that clouds your thinking. So when Mr. Right comes along, you can't even see him because, or, you know, whatever, you're going for the wrong person because your vision is clouded. So I say, you know, if you can get your heart ready in that, whether it's reading or studying or just letting go, you know, I think then you'll be open.
Nice. How about you, Kalin and Shanell?
I was just gonna say, I think I did the same thing. Like I did a lot of studying just of like how to date well, like how to like what does marriage look like? How do you prepare for it in your singleness? And I just did a lot of like asking questions as well, like just trying to figure out, especially from millennials, because like it's just different, you know, it's different than what it used to be. And, you know, I think just wanting to do it well and figure out how to set yourself up well so that, you know, there can be longevity and sustainability with the divorce rate being 50% and like all this stuff. So I really, you know, spent a lot of time just making sure like, okay, this is what I need to do to prepare myself.
I agree. I came from a very unhealthy, toxic relationship from my teenage years that spilled over into my early 20s. And so I spent like 4 years like learning, trying to not put myself back in that situation. And I think my whole goal was redemption. I was obsessed with the idea of being in a new relationship because I wanted redemption from the old one. And God kind of met me and was like, you're not gonna meet anybody, or you can't have a relationship with anyone until you have a relationship with me. And so when I submitted myself to God, it was only God that I was able to be with him, because I was still holding on to a lot of trauma. And so before I even started talking to Kalin, I had this encounter with God through prayer where he was like, I'm trying to prepare you for something, but I need you to write down all of your fears and release them. And so I had to do that. But I'm learning too, even, you know, for anyone who has gone through like an unhealthy relationship, there's things that come up that you have to face as you're walking this thing out with somebody who is healthy. And so there's been times where I'm like, oh, is it okay if I like text you multiple times a day? Because like in my last situation, you couldn't do that. So there was things that I didn't even know were issues, even though I prepared and I studied. So it took the grace of God and like Kalin's grace with me and patience to be like, okay, let's talk about that. Let's work through it. So I think there's a level of preparation as far as like the healing that needs to take place, and also learning about marriage. But there's also this walk that you have to do with the person you're with to kind of continue to unpack the things that you may be holding on to.
And also, like, I think like preparation is not just before. I think it's during. Like, I think like when you finally meet somebody, you're like, you learn more about yourself and you learn more about them. That's going to ultimately prepare you for even the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like every season that you're in prepares you for what God has next.
Mm-hmm.
Like even though, like, cause some people like they get to a season, they're like, I finally arrived. Like I could have gotten what Shanell said, finally, like I don't need to work on anything. We here now. But it's like, what? No, there's work to do, and like you don't want to stay planted at this level forever. We can't, because celibacy is hard, you know how it's but they gonna be here forever, you know what I'm saying?
What I missed that.
Say you're not gonna be here forever.
but
so you making an announcement, son?
No, he missed the joke. He was
I had to explain it to you.
He has to be at this level forever because celibacy is hard. Just so you know.
Yes.
I got that part.
I'll explain to you later.
I got that part.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So you know, in staying planted, and so I think preparation is also why you're in it. Like, so that's what me and Shanell were talking about as well. Is like, because I remember early on she asked the question like, okay, we're together now, like, but how do I prepare? And it's like you prepare while you're in it. So
yeah, that's really good. I just want to say this, and I would say even while you're like 32 years, there's still things that I'm discovering about our relationship that's going to cause us to not just survive, but to thrive. And so that discovery of preparation for the next level of your marriage never stops. 33 years, 32?
32.
32.
Yeah, it's funny. We're talking about, you know, God, he's in our lives and he's in our relationship. But sometimes people think that means I don't have to put the work in. And even though God is a part of it, you know, he's not going to be the one putting the work in. You have to do it, right? And so there's things about my husband that get on my nerves. I never get on his nerves though, but so you still got to navigate through those type of, you know, things in a relationship. So I didn't want people to think, oh, I just got to get a man or a woman who got God in their life. No, it's a little bit more than that.
You know what? I was thinking about this today. I was driving the car that Kalin used to have. that I've adopted Kalin's car. It's like he left a puppy.
It has nothing to do with anything anyway.
But I just took this car for inspection. And had I not done that, there would have been some real problems. I would have broken down. And I think what happens in relationships is we have an expectation about what we want to have happen in the relationship, but we don't do the inspectation. We don't inspect it, you know? And so for our relationship, I feel like there's that word, I want to use that word, that I'm still inspecting mostly what's in my life that may cause friction in our relationship, you know. So if we're using the automobile as an example, there's always going to have to be an oil change. Like you got to get regular maintenance. You have to check in. Like I'm going to go into one thing I want to say, like allow wise counsel to speak into your relationship. Not like God uses people. Like I know I can hear God, right? But allow some best practices to help bring maintenance to your relationship. So I'm sorry. I jumped ahead maybe.
That is a wonderful, wonderful analogy. I feel like I've never heard the car analogy to a relationship, but it's perfect because we all understand that ongoing maintenance that comes with the car and don't apply it to a relationship. I think that's a wonderful.
Can I say something?
You can.
I think a healthy relationship is a mirror. Like when like there's things about myself that I did not know that I needed to work on until like I got with Shanell. And like she could say the same thing. There's things that she didn't know that she had to work on until she got with me. Like because we've developed this healthy relationship and we're only dating like you know, we're just boyfriend and girlfriend, like not engaged, not married or anything. But it's like, I think God like is just revealing things to us about ourselves that we need to adjust and grow in so that, you know, we can prepare correctly. And I like, especially if we feel like this is God ordained. And so I think like when things are God ordained, like he just shows you how to manage the blessing, you know what I'm saying? Like, and manage it well. And like you said, like you have a choice to do that or not. And, you know, if you don't, then yeah, for you. So.
Yeah. And then I have one last question before we take a quick break. I want to know, Kalin, how did you, like you growing up with your parents, how did their example help you just in your relationship now?
Yeah, my parents are very healthy, you know. I know they and humble. I think I've seen the way that they've impacted people, and like that's always something that I wanted to emulate. I've never seen them argue with each other. I know they have because everybody does, but like they never did that in front of me. Like they never had like heavy disagreements in front of me. And, you know, and just, you know, the conflict resolution I think was just really good. Like, there's so many things that I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is just right. Like this is how this should be. And yeah, so it's even things that I do subconsciously that I'm like, oh shoot, that's what my parents be doing.
You know, it's so funny as a mom looking at my son, my adult son, and just remembering when he was really little, like, you know, asking for juice and look at me, you know, all of that.
Does Barney know me?
Just all kind of things. And then you know, he had a couple periods in life where I'm like, this child ain't gonna make it. He just ain't gonna make it. Help us, Jesus. And just to see the kind of, you know, son that you're turning out to be, it just makes your mama proud. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. And also, like, one of the things that I always struggle with that, you know, people say, y'all did such a great job with your son. And I don't know, this is not false humility for me. Like, God did a great job. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, you know, he owned his own walk with God. You know, we never pressured him, never pushed it on him, and he just took it, you know? And so with that being said, like, I'm really proud of what God has done. And it's a testament to what God can do in a person's life if they open themselves up to it. Because Kalin could have went a whole nother
way. Yeah. I think too, and I know this is not about parenting, but I'm just saying, you know, as a parent.
It's legacy though.
Yeah, it is legacy. Yeah, that's good. As a parent, your job is not to force your children to be something that you think they should be. Your job is to teach, train, and model. And emphasis on model, how you live your life so that they can, you don't just talk about it, but you live it. You know what I mean? And I think that any parent out there who's struggling with that, especially if your kids are small right now, you got a great opportunity, you know, to be able to teach, train, and model in front of them, you know, at least being good citizens, not being Christ followers.
And even if they're not small, like if they're 15, you know, like it's not too late, like to shift it all around. Like it's not too late.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And it's not about perfection. We get accolades that's like, what really, that's not, you know, we've never been perfect parents, but I think we're okay just in our flaws. You know what I mean? We're willing to admit. I remember a time when I did something that I went off on Kalin on something and, you know, I thought maybe I was right. And the Holy Spirit was like, no, how you handled that was wrong. And just be able to go back and say, hey, son, the way I carried that, the way I handled that was wrong, you know, in hopes that would be ingrained in him to be able to walk that out later with his son and grandsons and so on and so forth.
That's good. Yeah. That's good because it's just a level of like integrity, even in saying, okay, that wasn't right.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love this conversation, guys, but we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the top 3 things that people should do if they're in a relationship or starting a relationship.
And now, a delicious word. Today, we're making the ultimate quesadilla vegan. Make it yours by adding your favorite toppings. This is going to be delicious.
So right now, what we want to talk about is that work that you have to put in, and ask these four for their advice to any couple, either if they're starting out or if they're in marriage, whatever advice you have, the top 3 things that you must do. Which couple wants to go first?
I say let them go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the top 3 things that
That couples should do. Your top 3, it could be think words of advice for any couple, whether they're starting out or in the midst of it.
Like couples, like we're talking about like in our situation as well. Like okay. Yeah. So can I go first? No, you go first.
Okay, communication.
Yes.
Communication.
Yes.
I think that's like wrapped up in like don't shy away from conflict and don't shy away from hard questions or conversations. I don't know if that's 3, but I think like people, when they enter relationships, they try to be cute. They're like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite color? What you like to eat? Like, it's like, okay, but when stuff gets real and you don't know how that person communicates, you don't know how that person handles conflict. And then the couples who are like, we never fight. It's like, okay. Because like we were saying, like by nature, when you're bringing 2 people together who are from completely different lives and you're trying to merge it into one, I mean, even in the process of courtship, like there are things that are going to come up. And if you ignore those things and internalize those things, then if they don't come up now, they're going to come up later. And so I had to be okay with like asking hard questions, or even when we're upset with each other, actually saying like, I'm mad at you because, you know, instead of like, it might be me, you know, it might just be me and I got to work. Like that's such a false, a false thing to be. It's just me. Let me work it out. And you know what I mean? But I've literally had to learn how to say like, I'm upset with you because blah, blah, blah. And then we're able to have constructive conversations around, okay, what works for you? This was my interpretation. And it makes it way more productive as you're in courtship to work those things out early.
Yes. So communication is so important. And people like, I hear a lot of people say like, I just want a guy that just communicates well. And it's like, but it's like, you know, when things do get rough, it's like it's avoided. Like when it's conflict that happens, it's like, I just don't want to talk about it right now. And it's like, yeah, but you will 3 months from now if you don't address it. So, you know, it needs to
come. And the cute stuff doesn't work. Like I used to think like, oh, let me just get my eyebrows done and he ain't gonna be mad at me no more. But like, no, we have to talk about the things. Like he'd be like, okay, he's like, I would be trying to be cute, like, oh, you know, sorry. He's like, no, like let's talk about it. And I'm like, okay, so the tactics don't work. Like you gotta bring your full self to the relationship. And I think the earlier you bring your full self to the relationship, the better.
That's good. That's real good.
I think one of the things I'm kind of piggybacking is that you have to be vulnerable. And that is like super scary, especially if you've come from a trauma or traumatic relationships, you know, to allow yourself to be like this, okay, you know, it's really hard. Now, I'm an introvert. I know Shanell is too, but as an introvert, I mean, you rather just stay in your head. You just would be in your head about everything and not, no, I'm okay. You don't want to really talk it out. But it sounds like Kalin, who is like Elwood, is like, no, we're going to talk it out. I'm like, don't want to talk it out. Yeah. Give me a moment.
Always. Yeah. So I'm like learning how to be patient and let her process her thoughts so that like, we can talk about it when she's ready. Because if she doesn't process her thoughts, it's not gonna make no sense. It's just gonna, she's just gonna be saying words and
trying to come up with some stuff.
Right. Hey, remember, Mom, when I was younger, you'd be like, make it up.
I know. So Kalin used to, when he was little, he would be asking me like 1,000 questions. And I'm like, I don't know. And he would like make it up. He just wanted me to tell him anything. Right?
I love it.
Yeah.
The three things, is it?
You guys have other?
I think there were several things within the one thing. So I think
I heard be yourself too. Like you have to bring your full self to the table.
Yeah,
I like that.
And vulnerability is very important as well. Like being vulnerable when you feel comfortable to. I think you communicate early, but be vulnerable when you're ready. Like I think you need to discern if this person is healthy or not, and when you're ready, don't force vulnerability because that can be awkward.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
When I was 5, like my dog ran away. It's like don't force it. Just like let it. I have abandonment issues because my dog left when I was 4. It's like,
Kalin, I like how people sound to you.
Right.
But I do. It's funny. I like what you guys are saying because also I liked earlier when Shanell, you were saying you text Kalin and said, "Is it okay if I text you multiple times today?" And so it's almost like you have to even communicate about how you communicate as well. So that's cool. So Betty and Elwood.
So it's the three things that people must know or must do or what?
All of it.
All of that. I'm sorry. Specifics matter to me. I just think one of the what causes failure in marriages, in relationships, is a false understanding of love. I really believe that. Because so much of what people deem as love is connected to affection. And so when the affection leaves, then, I don't love her anymore. I don't like, and so like, I'm in the midst of so many counseling sessions right now around the whole idea of, I don't love her anymore, or he's not showing me love. And they're talking about affection. And I think the one thing that people need to do from the beginning is to understand what love really is, what's required in a relationship as it relates to love. And one thing I'm going to say, love is many things, but it's not self-seeking. But so there's like it's a double coin. It's like it's not self-seeking. You have to look. Like I was talking to somebody and I said, man, love your neighbor as yourself, but I can tell that you love yourself so much that you're having a hard time loving your neighbor. Like you feel me? And so love is sacrificial. It's willing to say, I'm willing to even allow you to be right, seem right for a second, even when you're wrong. So it's giving up of yourself. That's one part of love. So I'm just saying, to really understanding love. And then I think the other thing is, Michael Todd has a book called Relationship Goals. And I think that what happens is, and I haven't read the book, I've heard like very little, but I like the idea of being intentional about the goals in terms of your relationship. What are you really looking for? What are you striving for? After 32 years, I think what keeps us thriving and moving is because we still got goals. We still are planning for something. We're still trying to move to something. So we're not stagnant. And then lastly, I mean, I'm pulling stuff from the air right now.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
But just like really looking at the whole intentionality of your own self, like being intentional and not trying to change her to side with meeting my desire or my needs, but being intentional on the maintenance that needs to happen in my own personal life that solidifies our relationship and the love that we have for one another. So, I'm sorry, I kind of feel like I went all over the place.
No, it was just a little bit of a mic drop moment. I just felt like. No.
Can I add one, and this will give us 4?
I'm sorry. I took them all. I'm so sorry.
He's like,
I thought we get 3 each.
no.
It's a bonus round. Go ahead, Betty.
I remember this young lady came to me, and she was like, I don't want to be with my husband no more. In fact, she had a boyfriend already. And like, he don't love me. He don't treat me right and all this. And so I started asking a few more questions, and come to find out, she was like, he be buying me gifts and taking me on trips and stuff, right? This other guy, though, that she was with, he was showing her attention and, you know, and spending time with her and all this. And what it made me discover is that they didn't know each other's love language. And I don't know if you ever heard of the 5 love languages before. He's buying her gifts and taking her on trips because that's the way he is expressing love. And she didn't receive love that way. This other guy was spending time with her. That's how she received love. And so I think that's another one that will be helpful, because I can feel like you don't really love me because you don't take out the trash, because mine is acts of service. Right. I don't think you love me because you don't do that kind of thing. And just finding out, you know, what each other's love language is, I think it'll eliminate a whole bunch of stuff, because you're like, oh, he's not taking out the trash because he don't love me. He just is not taking out the trash, you know, or whatever, that kind of thing.
I think it's so great that we have like tools nowadays to like really help people like identify stuff like that. And like the first, like when you were saying that, like just in my mind, I was like, if people knew that these tools were out there, like their relationships would be so much better. Like, and there are some people who do have the tools, but they don't apply it and they're suffering for it. And it's just like, man, I just wish people could get this. Like, cause we did the love languages very early. There's actually
apology language. There's
an apology language that we like did a quiz thing on, and we know each other's apology language.
Wow.
You know? It's just all this different stuff. Like we're reading together. It's just all these tools so that we're setting ourselves up well so that we can be successful together in the future. I think that would be another one for me as well.
Hey, Roxanne, I just want to say one. That's so good. I want to hear more about the apology language.
Well, ways to apologize. Yeah, it's good.
It's 4 or 5. Yeah.
4.
Okay. I'm taking that. And once we get off this, I'm gonna go take that.
See, I think that I think one of the most hurtful, haunting things of relationships is when you spent years and years together, and then all of a sudden you decide, I'm ready to go, I'm do something else. And to me, it's so tragic. And because I'm a pastor, you know, I live in the real world of that happens in the church and outside of the church. And that's why I think it's significant and important to really identify, to do the inspection of what love really is. Not what you expect, but what you inspect, you know? And I'm just hurt and broken. I mean, I got a friend right now, you know, he's going to leave his wife, and there's nothing that anybody can say to him
for another lady,
you know,
after 40 years.
Yeah. With Chip and has grandkids now. Like when you see them, like you see, what are the like, I don't know. I'm so sorry. I want to just say this real quick. Like, I had a chance to be with my grandmother and grandfather who was married for 60 plus years. You know what I'm saying? What would it have been like if granddad wasn't there for me? Like, I'm who I am because of granddad. What would it have been like if I didn't have that opportunity, you know, my grandmother as well? And for me, like, legacy matters. Like, what, you know, this guy who I'm talking about, who was a pillar in the community, who has 2 sons and, you know, and daughters and that. And I'm like, they're not going to reap the benefit of all the things that were done early on because they didn't finish. Because he decided, and the woman didn't cheat on him. She's still beautiful, like all of this stuff. He just decided that I have affections for something else right now.
And and just to clarify, you feel like it's if he understood what real love was versus just that feeling. Yeah. Okay.
Completely.
And also, I'm sorry.
Can I just say why though, real quick? Because the reason is because he has recalibrated love to mean affection and how I feel versus what I do.
And you know, I'm not in that space right, you know, at all. Like, but I think like it's important to be vulnerable with other men where you can say,
yes,
man, there's this girl and there's something about this girl that just does something to me. And like before it even gets to a place where you're saying, okay, I'm gonna leave my wife now. Like from the jump, like I think if you're a minister, whatever, if you're a man in general, you need to have people that you're honest with about what's really going on.
So key.
Yes.
So key. Everybody don't need to know your business, but somebody needs to know most of your business.
Yes.
That's real. That's real.
They'll be able to talk you off the ledge. Like
if you want to be talked off the ledge. Some people don't want to be talked off the ledge. That's the problem.
Some people are willing to neglect their whole legacy because of their feelings, their temporary feelings. You know?
Yeah.
This is good, y'all. When we gonna do this again? This is so good. If you are watching at home, I actually really suggest that you rewind and watch it again, because I feel like there were so many nuggets in here that you will probably take notes on top of your notes. And I feel like a lot of stuff that was dropped in here will help you improve your whole relationship, not just a little bit. And so rewatch, please. But before we go, Kalin and Shanell, is there anything that you want to say, let people know where they can find you, et cetera, et cetera?
I just wanted to add one more thing. In relation to what you were saying, Elwood, in the fact that like people marry for pleasure, and when the pleasure runs out, then you seek it from somewhere else. And I think when you're seeking partnership with somebody, that's why it was so key for us to like interview each other in the beginning, because I'm not only looking for somebody to fall in love with, I'm looking for somebody who I can partner with in all areas of life.
Good.
And so partnership is key. And then you got to know what you're partnering for. And that's why it's so important, even in your singleness, that you identify your purpose so that you know what you're partnering, what you're bringing to the table. So that's my last thought.
That's so good. So good.
Yeah. That whole mic drop. That whole.
My hands are ashy.
Listen.
Right. What were you saying?
He got a new Instagram.
Yeah, so okay. By the time this comes out, maybe my old Instagram will come back. But if not, like it's so stupid, man. I got deactivated for no reason. Like it's crazy. So it'll be Kalin Jones 95. But if that don't work, it's going it'll be Kalin Jones Music, and that's the one that I'm rebuilding. So
nice.
That's me.
And I'm at the Shanell McCoy on Instagram.
Beautiful. Thank you guys for coming. And Betty and Elwood, where can we find you? What y'all
find me with her.
I'm at the Chat and Chew show.
I don't know, man. I'm so behind.
You don't know.
Oh my God.
Type in Elwood Jones.
You can find him at Landmark Church.
That's where you can find me at Landmark Church VA.com.
There you go.
.com, is that right? I don't even know.
Look at Landmark Church VA, Alexandria VA, right? We can narrow it on down. And and get some more of that wisdom that's popping up in this whole podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. Please remember to follow us at Chat and Chew Show on Instagram and on Facebook. And also, if you have not subscribed already, please do so by pressing the button, press the bell if you want to get notifications of when we have new shows. I never know if it's down or up or sideways, but press it wherever it is. Thank you guys for watching, and watch it again. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by the Chat and Chew Company. Host Betty Jones, co-host Roxanne Brew, producer Vanessa Outland, and music by Elwood Jones.